Well, let's cross now to London. We can speak to Martin Plaut, who's a fellow at the Institute of Commonwealth Studies and an expert on the Horn of Africa. Thank you so much for joining us. Who would you give the credit to for this peace deal materializing?
Well, it has to really go to the African Union for bringing everybody together, with the South Africans playing a major role, but also the United States. I mean, behind the scenes, they have played a very substantial role in bringing people together, and particularly in putting pressure on both sides, and particularly saying to the Ethiopians they would not extend credit via the International Monetary Fund, which would relieve the pressure on Ethiopia financially.
Now, this isn't the first agreement between the two warring sides. Would you therefore treat this with some degree of caution, nevertheless?
Oh, I certainly would. I mean, there are some things in there we'd really need to see the detail about. I mean, let me just give you two examples. On the one hand, it says they're going to uphold the federal constitution of Ethiopia, which would seem to suggest that the highly contested western province of Tigray, which would link it to Sudan, would be given back to Tigray. And this would upset a lot of people who have supported the war from the Ethiopian point of view. On the other hand, it says that Ethiopia has only one national defense force, and they're going to have a disarmament of the Tigrayan combatants. Well, who is going to secure the preservation of life and limb of the Tigrayans? Because they certainly don't trust the federal authorities. And the final problem, of course, is it says nothing about the Eritreans, who've been involved in the war right from the beginning and have tens, if not hundreds of thousands of troops deep inside Tigray. So there's a lot of questions about all of this document.
We hear reports about the horrific humanitarian situation in Tigray. What more can you tell us about it? Just how grave is the situation there?
Oh, it is absolutely catastrophic. I mean, the best estimates we have are that the non-combatants, somewhere between 300,000 and maybe 600,000, died in the 2 years up to the end of August. And there's been a lot of fighting since the end of August. There have been, that doesn't include all the combatants, and they must run into tens of thousands. So this is by far and away the biggest war currently underway anywhere in the world. Plus, you have a blockade, which has meant that there's been almost no outside aid in terms of food. Now, that can be overcome a bit by the farmers of Tigray, but things like insulin for people with diabetes, that has run out entirely. There are no gloves, surgical gloves left, even in the main hospital in the capital of Tigray, Mekelle. So, you know, there's an absolutely critical shortage of just about everything that's required.
And just moving forwards, assuming this deal does hold, and I know that's a big if, do you see a period of reconciliation taking place in the years ahead? I mean, how many years ahead? It's going to be a very long journey, isn't it?
Absolutely right. I mean, a lot is. It's not just the deaths and the disfigurement and the terrible rape and abuse of women and some young men as well, who've been terribly abused in this war. There's also the hate speech that's gone on, which has been tolerated, frankly, by the Ethiopian government, and people very close to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed have been saying the most appalling things, which are literally genocidal. Now, how are you going to overcome that and to get back to a position where Tigrayans, like everybody else in Ethiopia, can be treated just as an ordinary citizen? That must be the objective, but it's a long way off.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. Martin Plaut, fellow at the Institute of Commonwealth Studies, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Pleasure.